Welcome everyone to the new episode of startAD Studio. We have with us Claus, who is from Digishares. Claus just graduated from the Scale Up 2 program. Claus, it would be good to start with you giving us an introduction about your company and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so my name is Claus. I'm the CEO of Digishares. Digishares is focused on developing white label solutions for tokenization of real estate. So we are basically a software company providing good software solutions for real estate developers, allowing them to modernize and digitize business processes related to financing new development projects, automating business processes, fractionalizing their assets so that more retail investors can participate in the investments, and also to enable them to make the assets more liquid and allow investors to trade.
How was Digishares conceptualized? What was that point when you said, okay, this is a very good solution that we can build and this is the need of the market, let's start this?
Yeah, so we actually, the three founders met actually 5 years ago, and we started on a different project where we needed the technology of tokenization to sort of execute that project. So we sort of learned about the tokenization technology at a quite early stage because we needed it for another project. The other project we worked on was not a really good idea. I think it didn't work out. But instead, we found out that the tokenization technology itself at that time, 4 years ago, was really poorly developed, and there weren't any good tools or platforms to allow people to tokenize their assets. So we actually decided that we would work on that instead. So we make a pivot and focused on developing technology for tokenization.
So before meeting up for this project, what were you guys working on? Were you working on completely different things or complementing each other's skill on that project, or how was it like?
Yes. So we worked on another project called Venture Fusion, actually, which was like a startup incubator on the blockchain. And we were three founders, right, and worked on that for about a year or so, but it was really difficult to get off the ground. I'm more on the business side. The other co-founder, Yuri, is a very technical guy, and then we've got Meta also on the marketing side. Yeah, so we have different complementary skills.
So in terms of the potential that tokenization holds for the real estate market is immense, and you guys are now seeing that more and more interest is being generated by not only the companies in Europe and US, but companies all over the globe. So in terms of future, what do you think is the journey for Digishares? What do you think would be the next point for Digishares?
Yeah, so right now we are working with, you could say, early adopters, technology pioneers, and so on. We have around 60 clients globally, and we see actually huge demand, and we see increasing demand as well. So I think that tokenization is going to become the way that everyone will transact in the future within a few years. As we think the entire sort of real estate market and most types of assets and securities will eventually be tokenized and sort of become, you could say, a blockchain native object. We think that's the direction the industry is trending. Also because we see both small companies like us, but also the larger companies, the banks, the exchanges, and so on, are also adopting this technology. So we're quite sure that this is the way the trend is going. And yeah, so we see a bright future for the technology itself. So right now working with early adopters, but hopefully transitioning into the mass market, the laggards crossing the chasm over the next few years, and reaching out to normal conservative real estate developers and giving them real value with this type of technology, but without the exposure to crypto also potentially.
So I think now the ecosystem is slowly developing and corporates are becoming more receptive towards this kind of solution. But in your earlier days, you must have faced a lot of resistance from corporates. So how, what kind of questions you had, or what kind of concerns you had initially when you were putting a solution out in the market?
Yeah, 2 years ago, the demand was quite low, I have to say, and it was really expensive to start projects, and only few companies had done it. So it has developed a lot over the last couple of years, and what has changed, I would say, has mostly been on the regulatory, the legal side, where many countries have opened up for what we are doing, and now today fully supported in the securities regulation, including the UAE. And also I think the ecosystem has developed a lot, right? So a few years ago, very few legal firms knew how to carry out projects like this, and so they set a very high price. But today it's much more routine around the world to carry out these projects. So the legal fees have dropped a lot, and it's sort of have it has become much more realistic, you could say, for normal real estate developers to start up projects in the space. So the space has matured, and I would say a lot of the showstoppers that we had in the past, like on the legal side, has fallen away.
Definitely. So when you were reaching out to clients directly and cold calling them, turning them from a cold lead into a hot lead, versus having the clients receiving the clients from a program, what is the difference? How does the program really help, an accelerator program or any market access program in general?
I think the accelerator program helps a lot, right? What it gives us is a lot of insight and the knowledge about the client's needs, and pains and gains and so on, which is not something that we would normally get access to. I think the openness of the client is the largest benefit of being in a program like this. But for us, I would say we normally work only with inbound warm leads that are already sort of familiar with the space. We don't actually do much cold. We don't do any cold calling, right? And we don't really do cold emailing or any kind of cold outreach. We only speak to warm leads to some degree. So in that respect, this program has the same nature, I would say, than the type of leads that we normally work with. But of course, it's a larger client than what we are normally used to working with, and we get much more information. So that's great.
Yeah, I agree to some extent that being a completely radical market, some qualified leads would be much more helpful than trying to convert anybody who doesn't even know this space as of now. And slowly the market is evolving, but for now, I think qualified leads is the way to go.
Yeah.
So in terms of being an entrepreneur, was that something you visualized as a career, or it just slowly happened?
Slowly happened. I have a PhD in computer science. I was a researcher to begin with for some years. Then I left academia and I worked for Hewlett-Packard, actually HP R&D in Silicon Valley. But the job with Silicon Valley, with HP, actually exposed me to a lot of contact with entrepreneurs, startup people, and sort of slowly led me into it, right? And then the project that I was working on for HP actually was made into a spin-out from HP, and I was lucky enough to get the job as CEO for that company, and stayed there for several years, right, developing that company from a few employees up to a larger company, right? So I sort of was coincidentally dragged into the startup space without having any real feelings about it, but really grew to like it. So today I think I'm a natural entrepreneur, and there's nothing else I'd like to do.
How's the journey been so far? Has it been rewarding? Will you look back and say, okay, this is something I'm glad I did. This is a mistake, but I'm glad I made it. Or this is something, yeah.
Good question. I don't know. I think that the way that my life turned out, I think there was nothing else I could do. I think I didn't have another choice really. And today I would say I just love being in a situation of building a startup, the intellectual challenge of building a company, creating an organization, creating a product, developing a good sales department and so on. I just naturally love to do it. So I think that I will always be in this space also in the future, whatever happens.
That's great.
It's too late for me now.
So what would be a suggestion to young aspiring entrepreneurs if they want to build their own startup or they want to venture out on their own? What would be a suggestion?
Very good question. I think I could write a book about that. And I think it's not for everyone to go into entrepreneurship. I think it's risky, it's stressful, and the rewards are not always good enough compared to the hours you put in, but it's also extremely exciting, and you meet a lot of interesting people, and I think just the challenge in itself, I think is amazing, right? So it depends on your personality. I think if it's right for you, but I would say anyone should try it. I think try it at least once in your lifetime, and then see if it's something for you, because then it's if you get to like it, right, there's no way back.
But even when you're starting, it's always good to reduce the risk you're taking. And what would you say would be a in terms of suggestion, would be a low risk strategy to enter a new market or even explore a new market. So could you give some suggestion to the young entrepreneurs, or how can they minimize their risk and still test out the market a little bit?
There are lots of markets you can sell into. Actually, most markets you can sell into without having a physical presence, right? And especially after COVID, this has become extremely clear, and it's become much easier, I would say, to, like us, have an office in a small country far away from the big cities, right? We can still have meetings with clients over Zoom, and we can actually carry out projects with them. We have software developers in different places, right? We can hire them where they are, and they can work from home, and we can get the best competencies. We can also deliver projects to clients remotely, right? That's very easy to do, and the whole process can be carried out remotely. So I think there's no huge need, I would say, to have a physical presence in many markets, at least from the start. So it's gotten a lot cheaper and a lot easier, I would say, to start up a company and build up in different markets. But of course, there are markets where a physical presence will help, I would say, and there are markets where it's quite important, I would say, to have a physical presence. So you can't avoid it forever. You have to make your bets and put people in the markets in the countries where you think there's significant traction, right? Where it actually will help to have a local guy or girl on the ground.
One of the perks of being an entrepreneur you mentioned was that you get to meet a lot of interesting people on your journey. Who was the most interesting person you met while building Digishares? Was it Satoshi by any chance?
No. I've met a lot of crypto entrepreneurs, and I think I really like the crypto space in general, because it's a lot of the people in the space are motivated not by money but by idealistic ideas, right, about democratization, financial literacy, helping unbanked people, generally just creating a better world with less friction, less intermediaries that are not really needed, and so on, and liberating people to a large degree from oppressive systems in many cases, right? So I really like that. And it's not a specific person, but I would say I've just been motivated by a lot of the people that are in the crypto space, that are in some cases leading companies, and you could say some of the people behind the initial blockchains, like Vitalik, also with Ethereum, and Satoshi with Bitcoin, right? They have these ideas, and they didn't start up these, they didn't build these technologies to get rich, get power, so on. They really did it to do good in the world, and I think that's highly motivating and inspiring for me, certainly.
You mentioned a very good point here, having markets with less friction and less intermediaries. And UAE is one of the global leaders in terms of real estate markets. So in terms of potential, the sheer potential of tokenizing real estate assets, what potential do you see for Digishares for UAE as a market?
We see lots of potential. Yeah, we see lots of potential, and also from our discussions with Aldar, I think that there also is a lot of interest for what we can offer, right? Especially, I would say, around the democratization, enabling retail investors to invest into these projects, both as a way to grow or develop a new funding channel for the real estate developers and Aldar, but also as a way to actually do something good, right, and make it possible for retail investors to diversify into a real estate asset class, right, which they could not previously get access to, but now in the future will have access to, and sort of can develop an investment strategy similar to what rich people do, and better protect their savings, and to potentially develop some nice fortune on their own, or maybe grow out of poverty, right? So I think that's something that is important also in the UAE, but also the ability to maybe create community involvement around certain projects like resorts and hotels and so on. I think ties into the same vein of democratization.
So going forward, fast forward 1 year, 5 years, what are the most ambitious goals for Digishares?
Yeah, so we are launching an exchange this year, actually, for real estate also. So that's really the most exciting for us, I would say, this year. Whether we can create, you could say, a lot of traction also on the buy side of the market. Right now, we are working with the sellers, right, the real estate developers, but we don't really have any good grasp on the buy side, right? And there is a lot of interest in being able to reach the retail investors and having places for them to go if they are interested in investing into real estate. And that really doesn't exist so much today globally. So that's, our new initiative, I would say, to also try to help create value for real estate developers that want to reach retail investors and find retail investors that are interested in buying and trading real estate assets, right? So that's the next big step for us.
So on the retail investor side of things, is there excitement enough, or is the market getting warm to the idea of, this is a new asset class and I want to I want to test it out? Is the market getting excited? Okay.
Yeah, if you look at the industry trends, you will clearly see that the private investors and retail investors are increasingly going into the real estate space. I think it's currently still a few percent only of the global population that is invested into real estate. But if you look at rich people, I think it's almost all of them, right? Because they have the opportunity and they have the funds to do it today. Today, the requirement is maybe to have $100,000 to invest into a real estate project. If you have less than that, you don't have access. But we are making it possible for people to invest with 100 or 1,000 or $10,000, and in that way make it much more accessible. So there is a clear trend, but it also comes down to education and to informing people that they now have the opportunity to do it, informing them that it's important to do it also to protect their funds, right? And as a diversification, instead of just having the money in the bank or under the pillow. So I think it's almost a no-brainer that we will see huge interest in the future for this asset class, right? Real estate is the biggest asset class. It's just a matter of time, and it's a matter of education before the retail investors will also come streaming into this asset class.
Definitely, this is a very exciting space, and I think we would see huge potential unlocking in the coming years. We really look forward to seeing Digishares succeed in this journey and grow to new levels. So thank you so much, Claus. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and we love working with you in the program. We wish you all the best in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure to participate here and also in the program. We learned a lot.